So welcome to our question and answer videos. On this video, we're going to try to answer to the best of our ability some of the questions that come in on our channel in the comments section, and some of the things I have a good basic knowledge of, and I'm more than happy to share it. So if you have a question, just ask it in the comments section and leave the handle that you'd like to be referred to as, and we'll try to answer it in detail. Now, I always answer the questions that come in the shortest possible way I can, just to give the person, if they're asking a question, they need the answer right away. But some of the questions require a lengthier answer, and it's better to have it on a video. And the best thing of all is then we can share that information with all of the 11,000 plus subscribers. So we have a lot of really interesting questions. I'm going to try to answer them to the best of my ability. Sometimes I don't know the answer and I don't take a wild guess. I just say I didn't know. But thank you for everybody that submitted the questions, some of them, and all the nice compliments we get on the video, and some of the constructive criticism, and we always get both. So the first question today is from Steve, and Steve has sent many really useful comments to the video, and I appreciate them, of course. And he added to the video we posted about steam cleaning, he added he likes to use little paint brushes and I guess some kind of cleaner. And speaking of that, Jose sent in, and years ago he sent in a good tip of using these artist brushes with real long handles to get in and clean inside between the carburetors and things. But anyway, there's a big point to it. The point is, for every job we do on motorcycles, there's more than one way to do it. And you can go wash with a garden hose. That's not so good for your electrical system. And you can just not clean at all. And so maybe that's the easiest way of all. But anyway, the point that I wanted to make is, before we even get into some of the questions and some of the nice photos people sent in, there's never just one way to do anything. There's always multiple ways, and it's always best if you pick the one that works best for you. And thank you for the comment, Steve. And here, of course, is a picture of Steve at the Javits show hoisting the Stanley Cup, which he at one point in time claimed to win. Then the real hockey team came in and beat him to a pulp. Anyway, Jose, congratulations on his new BMW. Look at those gold wheels. Beautiful. Now, a fella named Vera sent in a good question, and I appreciate that when people send in a question, I try to answer it the next day or whenever I do the comments section on a video. But then I try to, if it's really something I think other people can use, I think it's something we can put on our question and answer videos. This is from Vera. He wanted to paint a laptop cover, and it's plastic, and he wanted to know, can he do it just the way same way you paint a motorcycle? Well, my answer was pretty cut and dry. Clean it with Simple Green, prime it with sealer, primer sealer, and then just paint it, whether you use a spray can or a little airbrush or however you do it, and no matter how you do it. Plastic is always a problem if you don't put primer sealer on. If you just say you don't want to put the primer sealer on, you don't have any, or you want to try not using it, you run a small risk that at some point in time the thinner from the paint is going to go down through the primer and turn the plastic into an alligator. Then you have a big problem. You got to sand it smooth. Now it's a big problem, and you've got to wipe off all the old paint. So, Vera, that is an excellent point. Is the technology that we share on this channel, you can use for a lot of other things. I mean, the model airplane videos that I have out on YouTube already, and I think there's over 1,000. There's thousands of hits, and that technology of painting applies to motorcycles. Making carbon fiber propellers applies to making motorcycle carbon fiber parts. And that's why we try to share the information, because I've almost never met anybody in the world that I couldn't learn something from. And I bet you any money, almost everybody in the world could learn something from me. So if we share the information and do it with the right intention in a non-egotistical way, what happens is we both win. And it's nice to live in a world where everybody wins. Now, our friend Scott sent this in. He is and learned a lot off of the videos, and he's got a class. He's a school teacher, of course, and they have a class on learning how to paint And I guess they watched some windy videos here, but hey, thank you for the nice photo. Good luck, guys. Now this is a nice handle, Paul R6. Well, Paul, you know we like R6s here. And he said something that I thought was pretty cool in his comments. He thinks the Rockwell meetups are a lot of fun, and because people from all over the country, actually all over the world, as you'll see later in the video, from other countries contribute to this, they get to come to our meetups, whether they're the Bikes and Breakfast or Ruts Hut or Rockwell. Bike meetups, they're a lot of fun. You get to see other bikes, make some new friends, and through the video you can be there without even going into your motorcycle and turning the key. So, and this is very funny. He said he enjoyed the camaraderie and everything, and I gave him this quote. I said, what Rockwell and some of the meetups really are is really rich old men with rusty bikes desperate for love. That might be true. Maybe more true than not true. Now, Ian in Scotland sent me a long question. I answered him about what sequence to put the paint on when you want to keep a part of the bike chrome, in this case, and to cover up the chrome and to paint the yellow stripe first and then the black last. That would minimize the amount of backmasking. But apparently he's been really good, and this is really a beautiful restoration. And Ian, Karen and I love Scotland. We've been all over the world, but Scotland is one of our favorites. Now here's a great story from Ray in Florida. He goes to a bike meetup, speaking of bike meetups and the fun you have, and there's a guy with an Indian. And of course you're trying to make friends and see everybody's motorcycle. Goes over, talks to the guy. The guy says, "Please, sir, I have a little problem with my back. Could you bend over and look at the little window to see if the oil in my bike is okay?" And Ray says, "Sure, no problem." He bends over, looks at the oil, says, "Yep, you're right on the money where it should be." And he says, now Ray is in his 80s, early 80s, and he asks the guy, "How old are you? You're still riding?" The guy says, "I just turned 94. So, and I remember Scott had a friend out in Kansas who said, "Oh, I turned 42 or something like that." And he told Scott, "I got to sell my motorcycle. I'm getting too old to ride." And Scott told him, "This guy's all over the world riding in their 90s and their 80s, and come on, get with it." And to be honest, I'm 77. I'm looking forward to a lot more years of riding. Anyway, that's a great story from Ray. Another story, this is from a fellow named Paul. He says, polishing parts. I love this one. Karen loved this one too. He says, "I love watching a video of polishing parts. I run out and polish parts every day on my bikes and stuff." He's got drag bikes, so he's a lot of stuff to work on when you have a drag bike. They need a lot of maintenance. He says, "I love polishing parts. It cures high blood pressure." I'll have to make note of that when I go to the doctor. I, so far, have been lucky, do not have high blood pressure, and I polish a lot. Maybe there's something to that. I gotta talk to the doctor about that. Anyway, Adam sent in some information. I don't follow modern bikes as much as I should. I'm more interested in older bikes, classic bikes that need restoration. He said Kawasaki just announced, I don't know if this is true or not, a ZX4 RR. I don't have any pictures to share yet, so if anybody's got pictures, let me know. At a 400, an inline 4, and it should be a really cool bike. Let me tell you, the twin 400, and Ray has two of them, Luciano got one, the late Bob Gordon had one. This list could go on and on. That is a very cool bike, and it's a very cool bike if you're not caught up in drag racing, acceleration, if you want good handling and reasonable price, and of course the fact they're lightweight. As you get older, having a lighter bike is more and more attractive, and having a big mama bike, not so attractive. Now these are a few pictures from my good friend Henry Hawk. He loves Moto Guzzies. He's jealous of Pokey having that big Moto Guzzi. And he's gone a 9,000 mile, almost 9,000 mile cross-country trip. Sent me pictures almost every day. Beautiful scenery, and he's quite a photographer. This is his small collection. He's got a VMAX, among other things. And he sent this picture of him standing by I guess that's one of those giant trees out west. Thank you, Henry. Now, a fella named Rishi. He liked the monster tank repair with Stay Bright silver solder. Well, Stay Bright Silver Solder is something I used in the machine shop business that Joe Kay and I were partners in. And one of the things we did with that, we assembled the control horns for the model planes. Never had one fail, by the way. And Stay Bright Silver Solder is a unique product. It melts at 410 degrees instead of somewhere in the mid 700s. So what happens on a thing of a fuel tank, you don't have to run an acetylene torch on it like you would with brazing or anything. You can do it with a heat gun and a soldering iron, and I've done it. We've done it to 2 or 3 tanks in my collection over the years. Also done it for more than one of Luciano's tanks, and I know it works well. But the trick is you've got to get the metal around, of course take all the gas out of the tank, the metal around where you're going to solder, and it's only good for little pinholes and stuff. You can't solder a whole joint that's rusted out, but you can put a little puddle of solder. The solder has to be liquid when it flows out and be shiny when it's done. Clean it, because the flux that you use for Stay Bright is sulfuric acid. Don't want to get it on your hands, or worse, get it on your hands and then rub your eyes. You don't want that. And you don't want to get it on anything. When you're done, take a little cotton Q-tips and some baking soda and water, and that'll turn to neutralize the sulfuric acid. Then you can sand it very, very carefully, clean it with any kind of degreasing agent, and as soon as possible, put a coat of primer on it. Some kind of primer that's going to keep it from oxidizing. And then you can go about the cosmetic part of it, the bondoing in and sanding it and making it pretty and everything. But as opposed to any other way there's other ways to seal. Like I said in the beginning of the video, lots of other ways. A lot of people, including Luciano, have had good luck sealing them with the epoxies and all it is. 4 or 5 different companies make sealer. I kind of like the silver solder way, and the ones I've done, well, the FCR has a silver solder joint. It's never failed. And I'm trying to think, there was one other bike I did, I remember, but I can't remember right now. Maybe the green bike had, I don't remember. When you have 9 bikes, it's hard to keep track of things. Anyway, Stay Bright Silver Solder is an excellent product to have in your collection of things if you're restoring old motorcycles. Our good friend Stefan in Romania has been out snow skiing, and he just added this YZF 750 to his collection. This looks like it's really nice, and he's going to do a little restoration on it. I hope we'll get some more pictures in the future. And he's got his other bikes in his collection. He has quite a collection of motorcycles. It's unbelievable. Now this is from Todd, and Todd had a really good question. It's useful information. Think about this for a while, and you can use this in any number of ways of doing it. He wants to know how to get repaired paint. Well, let's make a pretend thing up. I'll just move this. A pretend thing is I always have something like this hanging around. If you scratch the helmet here, but you don't want to repaint the whole helmet, you want to end the paint, if you can, at a line. Now, that would be the ideal thing. Now, sometimes that doesn't work out. Then you have to go to feathering it in with an airbrush and that. But if you can get it to go to the line, now you only have to repaint this area. So the step would be, you want to do the repair, flatten it out with sandpaper, get it perfectly flat. Then you want to put where you've sanded through, anytime you've gone through the paint, primer, sealer, that'll keep the thinner from going back in there. And then you want to back mask right at the edge of the paint. And at the edge of the paint, now you're going to put on, in this case, the green paint. You want to airbrush it on right up to the edge, but right at the edge, put the minimum amount of paint. Let it dry, in best of all worlds, overnight. Now move that piece of masking tape back 1/64, 32nd of an inch. Put on the first coat of clear. Again, when you get to the edge, put just a little bit. Second coat, move that tape back a little bit. So at some point in time, instead of having a paint line, you have little stairs. Now when you go to buff that out, it's a lot easier to bury it that you can't feel it. Now, some people, and I know people that are good painters too, and they don't care if you can feel that line. Well, I do, because just to me, that's the test of a super top-of-the-line custom motorcycle finish. When you can't feel those paint lines, that it's hard to get a lot better than that. I don't know what you could do to make it better than that. Or in a case of where there's decals or stickers. Now, and one funny thing that we're talking about this, when I bought the MT-09, the first thing I did, I looked at the fuel tank and I said, Yamaha has those stripes buried in paint. That tank was buffed out. Perfect to me. That was beautiful. Now, also some bikes, when you go over to them, the stickers are on the outside. There's no clear on them. Well, it's all in the eye of the beholder. But I do like having it that I can't feel. And that's the best way I know of, is keep moving that tape back, and don't put a big glob of paint so that that edge is as thin as possible every time. And you should be able to, at some point in time, buff it out without having to repaint the whole rest of the part. Good. That's a good tip, by the way. There's pictures from our friend Scott in Connecticut, who did an amazing total rebuild of this RZ, including the motor, the oil pump, the rings, the pistons, the whole thing. And I did a little photo shoot with him. We got together up at Perry's, and he's now in the process of doing the tank. There was some defective paint, and where the decals had to be done. I sent him a step-by-step how I thought it should be done, preferably with an airbrush, and I hope I have pictures of the completed project really soon. All right, a couple of quick funny stories. And funny stories are part of the fun of riding motorcycles, and the friends you make, and they share funny stories. Gorgon, I can relate to this. It's 15 degrees where he lives, and we had talked about what temperature do you ride in, and then when do you say, it's a little too cold to ride for me. That happens to be 40 degrees at my age. It was a little colder when I was younger, but 40 is, when it's below 40, I have a line on my thermometer. The needle goes past that, we just go do something else. And so here's the thing. He's in a car with the heater blasting, riding down the highway. It's 15 degrees out, and a guy passes him with a motorcycle. He says, I felt so cold. I turned the heater up in the car, and I felt cold just looking at him. Well, he turned the heater to maximum heat. Gorgon, that's really not unusual. I have seen guys riding when I knew it was too cold, and there are some guys a lot tougher than me, of course, and younger, of course. But then everybody's younger, except Ray. I think Ray's the only one older. Anyway, so another thing from Scott. And Scott, you have told me, but I don't know how old you are. He's out in Kansas or Colorado or maybe both. Anyway, he's riding and he says, Wendy, I went out for a couple of rides, and you know what? 40 degrees. You were right. Below 40, it's Iron Men and wooden ships. And anybody that doesn't know what that means, you are not in the Navy. And anyone who has any older motorcycle that you just difficult to find parts for sometimes, it's always a challenge, but in the end, having these older bikes is so worthwhile. So this question, a fella named Go Django, he uses Windex to remove hand grips, and of course we do too. And he said it makes sense to use it on tire changes too. Well, yeah, you're right. The lubricant in Windex is soap. Soap, if you've ever done sheetrock work, and you know you have to go into hardwood with sheetrock screws, you put a little bit of soap on them and they go right in. Soap is a lubricant. There's no secret to that. And anytime you can use, in model airplanes, we call it crossover technology. You see an idea that they're doing in this event or this, and you try it in, and sometimes it works for you. So crossover technology is a good thing to have. Now we got a lot of questions today. This has really been a busy month, I guess winter. I've been out riding a lot. I haven't made any ride videos because, boy, it's too cold to get off the bike sometimes. But anyway, Dave A. Pod, these are the kind of comments I love to hear. He used our video to his advantage, upholstered the seat on his VFR 1000F, and what he did is a smart thing, and this is the kind of, I've done similar things to this. He bought a spare seat rather than, because he probably thought, as I did, I don't want to screw up the good one. He bought a spare one. It was in pretty rough shape. Reupholstered it as per the video. Easy peasy to do. I don't know anybody in my circle of friends that hasn't been able to do that. the first time you do it, and it's good to have a helper, but the second time you can really do most of it yourself. But anyway, a seat is a big thing on a motorcycle. When you look at a bike and it's got a rip in a seat, or Joe Padula just put that real nice custom seat on his, and that worked out perfect, by the way. And the ones we did for the Ducatis, boy, when you see it, I don't even know what these parts are on eBay, but when you buy them on eBay, they're no better than the ones you have sometimes. But if you put new material on, it's like a brand new seat. Now, Lauren, spider cracks need reinforcing. So what I suggested, he's got spider cracks in the parts. And he already made the suggestion, and I just confirmed it when I emailed him back on the comments section. If you have a part, take apart. It's always good to have parts around. And you've got a spider crack right here, and everybody knows what a spider crack. A spider crack is from vibration. Paint dries out in time. When you make paint thicker than it has to be, what happens? It's more prone to crack. Thinner paint, you're better off, of course. And modern paint, always better than the old acrylics and urethanes and stuff of the past. Modern paints are really pretty good. So what happens is, where the crack is, you notice some resonant vibration. Well, that would not have cracked. So what I would always suggest doing is the back of where that crack is, put a big piece of carbon fiber, piece of e-glass, anything. That, in the worst of all worlds, you could put a tape, Gorilla Tape, something that would get rid of that vibration in that part. The same reason when we just fixed Luciano's Evil Triplet, where the parts, where the screws go in, when you over tighten a screw and that cracks out, all of Lad's bikes seem to crack out. He must be hard on equipment with that screwdriver. But anyway, having them reinforced, boy, does that work to your favor. And just published a video on putting on a windscreen where you have to locate the holes, and don't over tighten the screws. And don't put Loctite on those aluminum screws. That's all useful information. And sometimes in the course of watching a whole video, you only pick up one good tip, but if you do, it's worth it. And that's how because I've pretty much am self-taught and made a lot of mistakes and screwed up a lot of parts, but I've had a lot of people help me along the way too. So, and thank you one and all. So if you'd like to contribute some pictures to share, we're glad to share them. Please send them to me in an email as an attachment, and I will try to include them in on the video. And thank you to everybody that's contributed pictures. We have pictures from all over the world: Scotland, England, Germany, Romania, Australia, Canada. And thank you one and all. This is what makes this channel as good as it can be, by sharing the photos too. And that's my email address, fzrguy72618@gmail.com. Thank you in advance. M1 Active Alexis. Now some of these handles, I may get them a little wrong, I don't know, but anyway. 500 Ninja bodywork looked great, and the wheels came out good too. Now, what happened is, he was watching a video of the bike that Glenn restored, and that bike has a great history. And Luciano used it as a track bike. It was a 500 twin Ninja. He then, and I might have this wrong, he gave it to Larry DeTuri. Larry passed away, and the bike went back to Glenn. Glenn restored it beautifully. We even had his name on the tank, and the wheels were painted. And I don't know, to be honest, I don't know if Glenn still has it in his collection. But that 500 Ninja is like the 400 Ninja. That's a sleeper bike. That's a bike that's a whole lot more fun than you think it would be until you ride one. And especially if you get to ride it on the track. And our friend Mo, mentioning that, Mo has a BMW, a 1000cc top of the line one, and he got to ride a 400 Ninja on the track. Guess what? He's riding the Ninja on the track, and the BMW is in the garage. This is the late Bob Gordon's 400 Ninja, and the thing is, as many people have these bikes, you never run into somebody who doesn't like one. Even at Bikes and Breakfast, there were a few of them that everybody was ranting and raving, exactly like with the MT-09. Everybody loves them. So this is a comment from, his handle is Throttle Response. I love to hear these, but of course, realistically, I like comments that help me improve the channel, hopefully. And thank you to everybody who sends comments in. We try to answer them all to the best of our ability. He loves the content and he'll watch as long as I keep posting. Problem is we don't know how long that is. You know, when you're 77, you never know. But I'm going to try as long as I possibly can to share my passion for motorcycling. And this is a great way to do it. When I started this, I had no idea this would be this successful. It blew me away to see how many people do enjoy this and send comments. So, and thank you one and all. A fella named Natural Health. Between spray jobs, how do you keep the gun clean? Well, this is something else. A common thing. I have a jar of acetone and with a lid that seals. And I always take the tip and the spray nozzle off the gun. First, you're done spraying, run some acetone through it. Acetone is a good cleaner. And of course, do it outside. When the acetone's done, take the tip and all of that stuff off and put it in a jar of acetone. Next time you go to use the gun, almost guaranteed it's going to be, if you leave the settings where they are, you just go spray. That has worked for me. Now, I shouldn't say I've never not done that, because we used to paint so much stuff in the shop. I had a dedicated gun that always had black paint in it, always had white, always had silver. Some had the Ducati red, this green color that we have several other projects done with that. And then always a gun that's never had anything but clear in it. Never. But that's the trick. If you have red in a gun and you go to paint this, it's uncanny how that last little bit, there's a spot of whatever you painted before. Or in the case of, we just did it with Turbo Steve's turbo bike, we painted the silver, and then I asked him, get a brand new clear gun, because I had used the clear gun for another job. And what happens is you painting clear, and if you're going over the metallic part of it, and so a couple extra sparkles come out of the gun, you don't notice them. But then when you go over black or white, and you don't want the sparkles, and it's in the clear, so it's always good to have that dedicated clear gun. And these guns are only 20 bucks each, or well, even less sometimes. You got coupons or whatever, they're on sale. But if you have expensive equipment, people that have real body shops where they earn a living doing this, yeah, I'm sure they take the whole gun apart and they have other routines. But with $20 spray guns, that routine serves me well. And I'm always trying to do everything I do on a budget and share the information that works. Because if you have a $1,000 spray gun, you're probably not going to be watching this video anyway. So we want to do it hopefully on a budget. Anyway, Paul, he picked up and he said it worked great. He was thrilled that instead of painting, and he does a lot of painting, instead of painting one big glocky coat like you would paint a car, a lot of thin coats, And Scott has responded that worked well. Paul has now. Now, another thing, and I get this all the time, but MS Surf name, I'm sure I'm getting it wrong, but I apologize. And everybody loves GS 1100s. God, you get so many comments, I don't even keep track of them sometimes. They're all positive. He's got a 4-into-1, a jet kit. He ran 11.2, and I know this is true about that particular bike. All of the Suzuki, they seem to make great drag bikes no matter what year or model you use. But the 1100 is always one of the ones, at least years ago, when I used to do a little drag racing, everybody wanted that engine. I don't know, they would beg and buy bikes that were wrecked and just to get that engine for their drag bike. But anyway, I know other people have said, you know, it's very easy to take that engine and make it so much more powerful. Joe Padula's, I think it's his cousin, is doing one up right now, that he's got a lot of custom parts and big bore kits and that. Hopefully we'll see it and share it on a video very soon. But the whole thing of this that always is important to me, and at the end of each video I try to share this information, is if you know something that I don't know, and we're in business together making money, you don't want to share it because maybe you'll make more money than me or some other reason. But if you're doing things with a passion where you're not earning a living or making money, and this is my passion, I don't make any money out of this, I just do it because I really do enjoy doing it. And I enjoy sharing it with the friends that have, like Luciano and Turbo Steve and Glenn and everybody that has the same passion. the good thing to always remember is if you have knowledge and you share it, you still have it. That other person has it. And I think when you're sharing a passion, there's a reward that comes just from sharing it. When you see other people with a shiny bike, other people, in the case of drag racing, with a fast bike, and it develops a friendship and a relationship that is unique to motorcycling and modeling too. But it might be, those are the two primary things I've been involved in. But sharing that information has always been one of the objectives of my life, and through all the writings that I've done in modeling and all the videos I've shared, and especially this question and answer video. And I hope I've answered it to the best of my ability. So thank you most of all to the people that take the time and energy to share their passion, share their pictures of their motorcycles, their projects that they're working on, and their future projects. And I'm happy to have a circle of friends from all over the world, and I'm happy that I'm able to share all this stuff with them on YouTube in a very convenient way. Now, I do enjoy the older motorcycles. I love modern motorcycles, and I find it hard not to like certain groups of bikes. I kind of like them all, but my primary interest always is trying to share the information that I've learned, and most of it I've learned the hard way, and make it more enjoyable for everybody who shares this passion and the friendship of motorcycling. And whether you like old bikes, touring bikes, sport bikes, drag bikes, or you just like to look at video, it doesn't matter. We have a passion to share it all. And thanks so much for watching.